please welcome Al Mooney.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Michael, and good evening, LACPUG, as I always like to say. To start with that, it's by saying that I need no introduction. That's got to be the longest introduction I've ever had. But thank you anyway. So yeah, hi, I'm Al. I'm from ADOBE, or Adobe, however you want to pronounce it. And it's always a pleasure to be here, really. It's great. It's just great. So I'm here to talk to you about Creative Cloud, especially for video. Could you put your hand up if you don't know what Creative Cloud is? Oh, fantastic. All right, so when we first started talking about Creative Cloud, we made the point that there was one really, really awesome thing about it for this community. And there are many, but there was one thing we kept coming back to and focusing on. And that was that if you sign up to be a member of Creative Cloud, we promised you back in May or whenever it was that you would be able to expect and rely on regular updates with features that you wanted in them. We promised it. And when we promise something, we are really serious about it. So one of the best things by far about CC is instead of the way it used to be with our Creative Suite products, where you'd get something new every 12 to 18 months and it would cost you several $1,000s, if you choose to be a member of Creative Cloud, and by the way, it's not compulsory. If you look at Twitter, I sometimes think people think that it is. You don't have to sign up. It's fine. But if you sign up, you will get very regular feature-rich updates. So the first version of Premiere Pro CC shipped in May. We've had 2 big updates since then with features, and it's Christmas soon. Those things are clearly unrelated, right? So what is Creative Cloud? Well, you all know what it is, but it's this. It's all of our creative tools, and when something new comes, you get it for free. Well, that's not true. You don't have to pay any more for it. It's slightly different if something new comes. It's the community. We have this thing called Behance, or as you all know, as I like to call it, Beyonce. And Behance is a great way to work with other creatives across the world. And you get publishing, and you get, apparently according to this slide, inspiration. I want to focus, as I always do, on the professional video tools. We have a number of tools inside Creative Cloud that are designed to help you with your full soup-to-nuts, plan-to-playback, script-to-screen workflow, whatever you want to call it. You probably have seen this slide a million times, but it's always useful to point out. And I'm sorry, Dean, I'm going to do my stair thing, because I kind of feel special if I go up the stairs. So, script to screen. We have an application in Creative Cloud that helps you through an entire workflow. From Adobe Story, our script writing tool. Who uses Story? Nobody. So Story is cool if you work with anything that's scripted. Story is a collaborative cloud-based script writing tool. It's also used for scheduling. It's become enormous. It's used now by ITV in the UK for the 2 biggest soap operas ever in the world, Emmerdale and Coronation Street, for all their scripts and all their scheduling. So it's become big. Prelude, which I'm going to show you today. We're going to start with a little bit of Prelude today. That's our ingesting, logging, and rough cutting tool. Who uses Prelude as part of their workflow here? That's lovely to see. Awesome. I'm going to show you some new stuff. One of the really exciting new things that just came out, by the way, the 31st of October was the last time we released a bunch of new versions of these apps. As you can see, I didn't have time to find the logo, but there is a thing called Live Logger. Live Logger is an iOS application that's free that allows you to create metadata during events. I don't reckon any of you have seen Live Logger yet, have you? Yeah? Well, this guy's seen all of it. Okay, good. I'm going to show you that. Then into the creative tool set with Premiere Pro, the best NLE in the world, I think. After Effects, industry standard 3D compositing, Audition, very powerful audio tool, and SpeedGrade. And I am going to focus quite a bit today on the integration between Premiere Pro and SpeedGrade, right the way through to the Falling Rocks application, or Media Encoder, as it's more formally known. Underneath this, we have a new piece of technology called Anywhere. I'm going to briefly talk about that in a second, very briefly, but Anywhere is for collaboration across different users across commodity networks. And also, it's really, really important to point out the third-party ecosystem gets bigger and better all the time. So if you have still in your head that, there's not many third-party effects for Premiere Pro, or that it's hard to get some good transitions for Premiere Pro, throw those thoughts away. That's not the case anymore. And actually, we've done a lot of work in CC to improve, in particular, third-party effects and transitions so that they can run on the GPU and be fast and slick and fluid. So we're going to focus on how these applications integrate together today, but that's what the video tools are all about. The third update to Creative Cloud for video came out on the 31st of October. There's a whole bunch of new features, and some of them we're going to touch on shortly. Direct link. So you guys probably know what dynamic link is. If you ever do anything with an NLE and After Effects, dynamic link is by far the best way of doing it. It's the way Premiere Pro talks to and integrates with After Effects. We brought SpeedGrade into the suite, as we then called it, in CS6. And SpeedGrade is an awesome, very powerful color grading tool. But in all honesty, with CS6, the way SpeedGrade integrated with Premiere Pro was clunky, lumpy, awkward, and frustrating. That's changed a lot, and I'm really excited to show you Direct Link later on. We have native support for Ultra HD, 4K, 5K, 6K. We support anything up to 8K. I don't think many of you are working with 8K. Put your hands up if you're working with 8K. But I really want you to know this, and I'm not being catty. What? I haven't even said it yet. Being able to work with 4K media in a render-free way, fluidly, just like you were working with HD, is not the stuff of the future. It exists today. If you want to work with 4K, you can bring it into Premiere Pro, and you'll need a system with a GPU. You'll need a reasonably powerful system, but systems that are shipping today with Premiere Pro will allow you to work render-free with a full, complete 4K pipeline. So do bear that in mind. All right? So anyway, other new features. We've got amazing new mask tools in SpeedGrade, incredible image upscaling. We were talking about downscaling earlier on, but if you're bringing SD media into an HD or beyond workflow, the upscaling tools in After Effects are amazing. And multiple improvements to the editing experience, and I'm going to show you certainly at least some of those as we go through. As usual, I'm talking much more than I meant to. Going back to the 4K and beyond support, just in case you don't know this, one of our biggest features, one of our most important things is that we support all media formats natively. There is no need to transcode when you bring media into Premiere Pro, ever. You don't need to transcode. If you want to, you can. If you want to generate low-resolution proxies and cut them so you can work on a really low-powered machine like a MacBook Air or whatever and relink to full res at the end of the process, you can do that. Feel free. We don't mind. But you don't need to if your system is powerful enough. Everything works natively. This includes all of the formats that you can see on this slide that were newly introduced in the most recent version of Premiere Pro CC. So this includes, finally, yes, it includes native, well-performing Cinema DNG from the Blackmagic Cinema camera. It's a beautiful thing. Throw it into Premiere Pro. It works. We now have native support for Phantom Cine. And one thing I really want to point out on this is Red are just starting to bring out their Dragon, their 6K sensor. I'm going to show you a 6K clip being brought into Premiere Pro, and I'm going to show you how you can scrub it and how it works. All of this is supported natively in Premiere Pro. All right? So just be aware of all that stuff. Anywhere is, I'm just going to talk very briefly about, this is currently what we would call an on-premise solution. So this means that in order to use Anywhere, you buy a bunch of servers and you put them in your machine room next to your storage, right? It's not something that an independent creative is going to use. But Anywhere is all about collaborating. It's a very powerful way to integrate with an existing MAM or storage infrastructure and allow the clients, I don't know why that's in inverted commas, that's a fairly normal term, the clients to just plug in to a commodity network and play back. It's proxy-free, it's all about collaborating, and it's a pretty awesome thing, and I'm sorry I can't demo it to you today, but I want you to be aware of what Anywhere is. And that is an Adobe logo on a grey background. All right, thank you. So I talked about native support. And one of the things that we just brought in this release, the October 31st release, is native support for Redragon 6K. And I always like to, in a demo, not only show the new stuff, because not everybody uses this thing every day, and maybe some of our really biggest features you're not aware of. So let's have a real quick look at how we can work with 6K media, 6K red media in this particular example. It's not only that, but this is what I want to show you. So I'm going to jump to the media browser, and for those of you who've not heard me say this before, and for those of you who have, the media browser is a way of navigating through my attached drives, all the directories I have visible to my machine, and finding media, which sounds really ordinary. I mean, why can't I just do that in the Finder or Windows Explorer? Well, the difference is the media browser is clever, by which I mean the media browser understands what tapeless media is. So if I was in the Finder and I double-clicked on a P2 directory or an XDCAM directory or a directory with red in it, I would see a bunch of subfolders and it would be confusing, and within those folders I'd have to try and find the media, and then I wouldn't know what it is, and it would be meaningless names, and that's annoying. If you do that, if you double-click on a P2 directory in Premiere Pro in the media browser, which incidentally also exists in Prelude, then it will automatically say, I know what this media is. I understand it. It will look through the folder structure and show you clips, which you can scrub across and bring in an import and blah. So I want to show you how that works with Red 6K and just talk a little bit about what we do with Red. Here's some media by my new best friend, Phil Holland, who is one of the lucky few to have access to the Dragon. And I'm just going to open that directory up. And what you'll see right away is Premiere Pro goes, oh, look, yeah, I know what this is. It's red. And if I hit this little I button, it's a little bit, oh, what the hell did I just do there? That's a shortcut I don't know about. I'm thinking I'm using my computer. If I hit this, you'll see it's gone into red mode. It knows it's red. And you'll see that it'll go into ARRI RAW or ABC or Canon XF, or it'll automatically find out what this media is and put itself in that mode so that you can deal with media. So these are real, honest Redragon 6K clips. And I can go in here, and even though they're 6K, and even though I'm just playing off a Retina MacBook Pro, I can still scrub across them, and I can still see what they are. So let's just bring a couple of red clips in. I'm just going to select 3. And I'm going to drag them into my project panel. And that I just do by just drag dropping, and I've imported them. And because they're already on my local drive, actually it's on this external USB 3 thing, I'm not doing any copying, and they're right in here. So let's look at a Red 6K clip. I'm going to open it up. Now, one of the nice things we have that you might not be aware of is this concept of fractional resolutions. This is 6K. 6K is big. Now, I'm not going to show you this not working, because I don't like to do that. But if I tried to play every pixel of 6K at full resolution, it wouldn't work. Of course it wouldn't work. It's a USB 3 drive attached to a MacBook Pro. It ain't going to work. It's not going to play back. Also, the resolution of this screen, in particular when it's only one quadrant of said screen, ain't anywhere near 6K, boys and girls. It's nothing like it. So trying to play that back at full res, unless I'm outputting to some non-existent 6K monitor, is idiotic. The non-existent ones are my favorite. So why don't we just drop the resolution all the way down to 1/16? Well, let's go for an 1/8. So this is Redragon. This is what it looks like. We'll go full screen. We'll play it back. It's beautiful. It's shot beautifully, and it's playing back. And it's just got a little bit stuck there, a little bit. Actually, no, that was the end of the clip. That makes more sense. But I want you to know that that's what we can bring that in, and we can mark it in and out range from it. We can make a sequence from it. Let's do that. Right-click, new sequence from clip. That's just going to say, automatically create me a 6K sequence. I'll prove it's a 6K sequence by going to the sequence settings dialog, which you will notice is now fully editable, thank the Lord, even though the sequence is already created. And you'll see it's 6,144 by 2,592 pixels. That is a 6K sequence. I'm going to drop that sequence down to a 16th. But I'm going to scrub around it, and I'm going to play it back. And the thing is, it doesn't matter if you drop the resolution down that low, because it's 6K. It's still going to look better than HD, even on this laptop. What's nice about having Red in Premiere Pro is, if you want to get into the real reason people will use Red, which is that everything is just metadata, I can adjust the parameters of red clips just by going into the red source settings. All of that is available in Premiere Pro. So I'm going to right-click on a clip in my timeline, and I'm going to choose source settings. Did someone just clap? Sounded like it. Maybe someone just was just fidgety. Here are all the red source settings right inside Premiere Pro. So I've got access to my curves. So let's just push the whites up and whatever and crunch those blacks down a bit. And you can see access to every single red parameter, all just metadata. And this will all play back in real time on a reasonably spec'd system. I just wanted to show you that because I want you to be aware that this native support and this access to the red source settings give you a red workflow, that's pretty damn awesome. Also, just to point out, if you had done anything in Red Cine X, where you'll see all the same parameters, that's just a part of the RMD. I don't know how well you can see this, but this just says save to and reload from RMD, the red metadata file. We'll read that, we'll edit it, and we'll write back to it. So the red workflow in Premiere Pro is pretty damn cool. Thanks. All right. Now let's look at some color stuff. Here is a sequence that was shot on Hawaii. I can probably push that a little bit higher now. Oh, I just found a bug. Here is a sequence shot on Hawaii, just playing back through that USB 3. It's beautiful. As you can see, it's nicely shot. Amazingly creative transition there. There's another one coming up. This one's my favorite. Woo! Incredible! And some very, very, very subtle noise just applied to this clip as well. Not sure if you can detect that noise. Just very subtle bit of film grain. So this is a real sequence with multiple video tracks, with real-time transitions, with real-time effects, and an adjustment layer on the top. So what I want to talk about now is color. We're Adobe, so we care a huge amount about color. In fact, we predict within 10 years it's going to overtake black and white. With CS6, we brought in a new application to the suite that was called SpeedGrade. It still is called SpeedGrade. And that came from our acquisition of Iridas. SpeedGrade is a fully featured, incredibly powerful color grading and finishing application. But you know what? We think about color very differently, I think. We being the industry as a whole, very differently to the way we thought about it not a few years ago. The very fact that the word finishing is used, I think, is interesting because that implies it's at the end, finishing, the last thing. And I'm sure there's other parts of finishing, but that's kind of, we think of making something look beautiful as something that happens at the very end of a production. And that's not true in the modern world, in modern production. It simply isn't true. We are creating color aesthetics and we're working creatively with color far earlier in a production pipeline than we ever were before. In fact, and indeed, very often, we're coming up with looks and aesthetics and ideas for how something is going to look and feel on set with a tablet. So the way we deal with color is different. And therefore, having rich, deep, and yet, of course, easy and fast and powerful color tools right inside the editor is very, very important. With the first release of CC, we did something pretty cool, which is we took the engine from SpeedGrade, this thing called the Lumetri Deep Color Engine, 32-bit floating point, super awesome engine under the hood, and we put it in Premiere Pro. So all of the loveliness that SpeedGrade can offer to media actually now exists in Premiere Pro. So that was cool. In the most recent updates, in the October 31st updates, we did the opposite. We took the Mercury playback engine, the thing that enables me to do all the stuff you've just seen, bring in native media and work with it freely. We took that and we put it in SpeedGrade. So in a sense, we swapped the engines, right? We swapped the engines over. This means that we can offer now a previously sort of unheard of, I think I'm allowed to say that, color workflow between edit and grade. And I want to show you a little bit about what I mean by that. So first of all, let's just look at this sequence. Now, above this sequence is a thing that I've called production look. That's just an adjustment layer, and I know you know what that is. Whatever I do to that thing will apply to the sequence beneath it. But just to prove it, this is a real sequence. I've got some silly picture-in-picture here, silly transitions. It's real. So the first example I want to give you is Imagine I don't have time to do anything, which, let's face it, is a recurring theme in post-production and broadcast. Let's say I just wish I could just throw something onto this that made it look pretty. You know, because my producer's coming in 2 minutes and I just want it to look great. And I don't have time to grade, or I'm scared of grading, or whatever it might be. What we did in the first version of CC is we added a thing called the Lumetri Looks browser. It shows up in your ECP, in your effects, sorry, that's wrong, in your effects panel, and it looks like this. It gives you a bunch of preset looks. And you can see we've got these little thumbnails of the trendy young lady with shaved hair that give you an idea of what the look is, and for the record, it's very easy to build your own in SpeedGrade. So the Looks browser gives me a bunch of pre-baked looks that I can pick up and drag, or drag, drop, onto a clip or an adjustment layer to give my project, or my sequence, I should say, a good look. So what I'll do is I'll just find one I like, this Cinematic 2, and I'm losing a bit of real estate here, but let's just drag that out. This Cinematic 2 look I know is kind of good, so I'm just going to drag it up to my adjustment layer. Drag, drop, and I've applied a look straight away. And it's GPU optimized, of course, as everything is in Premiere Pro, so it's going to play back and be smooth. I can, you know, in a super fast turnaround, I can just throw a look on, make it look pretty, show the producer all is well. Incredibly quick color stuff. Now, if I wanted to do something a bit more than that, like I actually wanted to take this sequence into the grade, in this example, of course, into SpeedGrade. Generally speaking, when I've got an open sequence and I'm going to take it to a grading application, there's a bunch of stuff I have to think about as an editor, and most of that stuff is kind of annoying. I generally have to think, I'm going to need to export some kind of interchange format. I'll probably have to export an XML or an AAF, or if you know, hell's frozen over, an EDL, and I'm going to have to, you know, make sure that when I take that into the grading application, I will have to go through a potentially painful relink back to the source media I was working with, and all that stuff is slow and cumbersome and annoying. And if I then change the edit, and there was a sub-conversation I was partially involved in earlier on, if I then change anything about the edit, I've got to do the whole thing again, and it's really, really, really painful. Also, when I'm going from edit to grade, I'm generally expecting to have to remove the things that I just was at pains to point out, like the incredibly beautiful page peel transition there, or the very subtle noise effect. And I may even have to do things like flatten, depending on where I'm going and what I'm doing. I may have to flatten things like this, like this picture-in-picture where I've got 4 clips on my timeline and other stuff going on. So that's annoying. And it slows me down, and it makes the color thing something I really have to have finished all of my editing. I've got to be locked, and no one's ever locked anymore. I've got to be locked before I send to grade. Well, I'd like to introduce you to something brand new that just came out on the 31st that we call Direct Link. And Direct Link is a new way of thinking about an edit grade workflow. It gives you complete flexibility between edit and grade. You can move freely between editing and color grading / correcting, and without needing to think or worry about all the very boring things we've just outlined. So, what I'm going to do is take this sequence and put it into SpeedGrade. And the way I'm going to do that is by using Direct Link. So I have my sequence selected. I'm going to jump up to my File menu, and I'm going to choose the all-new Direct Link to Adobe SpeedGrade. Now remember, we've swapped engines. I've got the Lumetri engine doing something in this sequence. I just put that look on my adjustment layer. And all this is mixed media, and so I want to be able to send it to SpeedGrade. So let's hit Direct Link. That's going to say something, a really simple dialogue. It says, do you want to save this project and open it in SpeedGrade? That is one of the most important concepts to note about this workflow. This is not an export-import workflow. There's no relinking. There's no media wrangling or mangling. This is just the Premiere Pro project, referencing the same media and everything the same, opening in a different application, opening in SpeedGrade. So I will say, yes, I do want to save it. Premiere Pro will close and jump to the welcome screen. SpeedGrade will open, load the sequence, and, as if by magic, if the demo gods are on my side, I'm in SpeedGrade. And now I'm in SpeedGrade with the exact same sequence that I had in Premiere Pro. It looks the same. The clip label colors are the same. The transitions are still here. The adjustment layer is still here. But now I'm in a fully featured, extremely powerful grading application. Again, slight UI issues here, but we'll work through them. So let me just move around, and it's a little slow on this USB 3 drive, but I want to point out, there is that transition, there is the ugly first transition. And here is a little bit sticky, it's just going to render a little bit. Here's the ugly page peel transition. It looks and feels like Premiere Pro, the transport controls are familiar, the playhead is familiar, the sequence is familiar, except I'm grading. So let's do some stuff with color. I'm going to select the adjustment layer at the top, and you'll notice if I look down at the bottom left, it says LUT. That's the color effect I applied in Premiere Pro. And I can select it, and I can change it. It's SpeedGrade. There's a lot more you can do with color in here. So instead of having a few looks, we have like a bazillion of them. So let's just change it to something different. Let's put a nice Kodak film look on it. And I've just changed that adjustment layer. And it was subtle, but hopefully you can see what happened. All of the effects and transitions are live. So I can do things like grade on one side of a transition. Let's go ahead and pick the right-hand side of that transition. There's that clip. It's a little tricky, but all I'm going to do is something really simple, like dial saturation down really easy. Let's do that. Quiet tonight. So that, that's kind of almost black and white now, but because it's live, I haven't had to mess around trying to track the three shapes in this transition. I'm transitioning from my color shot to my desaturated shot. Let's go back to that picture-in-picture bit that I showed you in Premiere Pro. I'm going to just select the clip at the bottom, and again, just do something really, really, really simple. I'm just going to go to my temperature control and make it look all gold. It doesn't really matter what I'm doing here, but the point is, this is fully featured grading. I've got multiple masks, I've got multiple primaries, multiple secondaries. This is a grading application, but I'm grading the Premiere Pro project. Did I mention that already? This is the Premiere Pro project, open in SpeedGrade. I've done all my beautiful grades, I'm ready, I'm happy. I'm going to jump up to this menu button here, which says direct link to Adobe Premiere Pro. This throws an almost identical dialog to the one which I got from Premiere. Do you want to save and open somewhere else? Yes, please. It's going to save it. It's going to jump back to Premiere Pro. It's going to open it. And you can already see there's the grade in place. Now, if I select that clip, the only difference really you'll notice now is I jump to my effect controls panel. If we just hide a few things here, you'll notice there is a single effect on it that's called Lumetri. Remember, that's the name of the engine. That's how this works. We put a Lumetri effect on it with all the parameters, and pixel for pixel, shade for shade, everything is identical, of course, because the engines are the same. I can hit the uncheck the Lumetri button, and my grade goes away. I can jump up to that adjustment layer, do the same, and my grade goes away. This, I think, is an edit and grade workflow like you've never seen before. It's called Direct Link, and we're very excited about it. Thank you very much. I feel like I've been more serious than usual tonight, so sorry about that. Just a couple of other things. What you may have heard, let's jump to something pretty. That's not, well, that'll do. You may have heard that the Cinema DNG implementation we did in the last version does something very cool, which is that it uses the GPU to debayer the raw media, the CDNG media. That means the performance of Cinema DNG in Premiere Pro is, to use a technical term, frickin' awesome. We definitely hear from multiple people that it would be cool if we did that with other raw media, such as Red, and we're very interested in that. I think that's it. I just wanted to show you what's new in Creative Cloud. Like I said at the beginning of this presentation, by far, I think the most awesome thing about Creative Cloud is that we'll keep doing it. We're absolutely dedicated to this. You will see feature-rich updates multiple times a year across all the applications. The integration is going to get better and better. And as a member of Creative Cloud, every now and then you'll wake up in the morning and see a little red number in the top of your screen telling you you have exciting new toys to unwrap.
Thank from Adobe, Al Mooney.
Thank you.